Step away from the aircraft immediately. Drop your cleaning supplies and put your hands where I can see them." Security surrounded the janitor, who was simply doing his night shift cleaning duties. But this hard-working cleaning worker had just discovered something that would save hundreds of lives and expose a massive security failure that had allowed dangerous contraband to bypass airport screening systems for months. David Martinez had been working the night shift as an aircraft cleaner at Phoenix Sky Harbor International Airport for 8 years. At 34, he took pride in his work, understanding that passenger safety often depended on the thoroughness of people like him who worked behind the scenes. His job was to ensure that every aircraft was spotless, sanitized, and ready for the next day's flights. That Tuesday night started like any other. David arrived at the employee entrance at 10:30 p.m., badge ready, lunch bag in hand. He had developed a routine over the years that allowed him to clean aircraft efficiently while maintaining the highest standards. His supervisor, Carol Williams, had consistently rated his performance as exemplary, noting his attention to detail and reliability. The aircraft assigned to him that night was a wide-body jet that had just completed its final flight from Miami to Phoenix. Flight 889 had carried 284 passengers, and David knew from experience that cleaning such a large aircraft thoroughly would take approximately 4 hours. He gathered his supplies from the equipment room: industrial vacuum cleaners, sanitizing solution, trash bags, and the specialized cleaning tools needed for aircraft interiors. As David entered the aircraft through the rear service door, he immediately noticed that this flight had been particularly messy. Passengers had left behind newspapers, food containers, and personal items scattered throughout the cabin. The overhead bins contained forgotten jackets, magazines, and various personal belongings that would need to be collected and turned in to the Lost and Found department. David began his systematic cleaning process, starting with the rear economy section and working his way forward. He had learned that this approach was most efficient, allowing him to clean thoroughly without having to backtrack through areas he had already completed. The work was physically demanding, requiring him to bend, stretch, and maneuver the heavy vacuum equipment through narrow aisles. As he worked through the middle section of the economy cabin, he noticed something unusual. Seat 23F had what appeared to be a small package wedged deep underneath the seat cushion, almost invisible unless someone was specifically looking for it. In his 8 years of cleaning aircraft, David had found countless items left behind by passengers: phones, wallets, jewelry, books, and even laptops. But this package was different. It was deliberately hidden, wrapped in black tape, and had no identifying marks or labels. Most forgotten items were simply dropped or accidentally left behind. This package had been carefully concealed in a location where it would remain undiscovered for an extended period. David's instincts told him that something wasn't right. He carefully extracted the package, noting its weight and the fact that it contained some kind of documentation. Through the black tape, he could see what appeared to be official-looking papers and possibly identification cards. The realization hit him that he might be looking at fraudulent documentation that could be used to bypass airport security screening systems for months. David understood the implications immediately. If unauthorized individuals could use fake ID to board aircraft, they could potentially bring dangerous items onto flights or access restricted areas of the airport. This represented a serious security vulnerability that could endanger the lives of passengers and crew members. He made the decision to report his discovery immediately to airport security. David knew that protocol required him to contact his supervisor first, but the potential security implications made him feel that time was critical. He pulled out his cell phone and dialed the airport security emergency line. "This is David Martinez, aircraft cleaner badge number 4471. I'm currently cleaning flight 889, and I've discovered what appears to be fraudulent identification documents hidden in the passenger cabin. I believe this represents a serious security threat." The security dispatcher took his information and told him to remain with the aircraft until security personnel could respond. Within minutes, David could hear footsteps approaching the aircraft.
But instead of a single security officer, he heard multiple sets of footsteps and radio chatter that suggested a larger response was incoming. Step away from the aircraft immediately. Stop what you're doing and drop any cleaning supplies. Put your hands on the aircraft. David was shocked by the aggressive response. He had expected a security officer to come and examine his discovery, not a confrontation that made him feel like a suspect. "Officer, I'm the one who called in the security threat. I found suspicious documents hidden in the aircraft." The range of officers approached, and having detected that this security matter was not simply a minor discovery, they called in additional security personnel. The hurrying movement of personnel gave a raised state of alertness that might be perhaps a preventative measure over an assessment. Officers were approached with heavy armor and proper equipment, pushed David to the ground, and placed him under handcuffs. He was confused and shocked to see these distinct tactics being applied as he was calling in the security threat.
Other security officers surrounded David, their hands resting on their weapons. The situation had escalated far beyond what David had anticipated when he made his report. He found himself being treated as a potential security threat rather than someone who had discovered evidence of a serious vulnerability. "Sir, there's been a misunderstanding," David said, trying to remain calm despite the intimidating presence of multiple armed officers. "I'm David Martinez, employee number 4471. I've been working here for 8 years. I called to report finding hidden documents that could be used for identity fraud." Officer Rodriguez approached David with obvious suspicion. "How do we know you weren't the one who hid those documents? You have access to aircraft after hours. You could be part of a smuggling operation." The accusation hit David like a physical blow. In 8 years of dedicated service, he had never had so much as a disciplinary action on his record. His background check had been thoroughly reviewed when he was hired, and he had undergone regular security clearance renewals. The suggestion that he was involved in criminal activity was both insulting and frightening. "Officer, you can check my employment record. I've been reporting suspicious items for years. Why would I call attention to something if I had hidden it myself?" David's voice remained respectful, despite his growing frustration with the situation. Other security officers were now boarding the aircraft, treating it as a potential crime scene. David watched as they cordoned off the area around seat 23F and began photographing the location where he had found the package. Their professional response confirmed that his discovery was indeed significant, but he was still being treated as a suspect rather than the person who had reported the security threat. "Sir, we're going to need you to come with us for questioning," Officer Rodriguez said. "This is a serious matter that requires a thorough investigation." David felt his heart rate increase as he realized he was essentially being detained. He had come to work expecting a routine night shift cleaning aircraft, and now he was facing interrogation as a potential security threat. The irony was overwhelming. He was being suspected of the very crime he had tried to prevent. As they escorted him from the aircraft, David could see other security personnel arriving. Canine units were being deployed to search for additional hidden materials. A hazmat team was standing by in case the discovered documents were connected to more dangerous contraband. The response was massive and clearly indicated that his discovery had triggered major security concerns. But what troubled David most was the realization that if he hadn't found the hidden package, it could have remained concealed indefinitely. The cleaning procedures he followed were more thorough than those used by many of his colleagues. A less diligent cleaner might never have discovered the hidden documents, allowing the security vulnerability to continue undetected. In the security office, David found himself in an interrogation room facing a panel of investigators. Officer Rodriguez was joined by Detective Sarah Chen from the Airport Police and Agent Michael Foster from the Transportation Security Administration. The seriousness of their expressions made it clear that this was no routine questioning. Mr. Martinez, we need you to walk us through exactly how you discovered these documents and what led you to call security. David provided a detailed account of his cleaning routine, his discovery of the hidden package, and his decision to report it immediately. He explained his 8-year employment history, his consistent performance reviews, and his understanding of security protocols. Throughout his statement, he maintained his innocence and emphasized his commitment to passenger safety. The documents you found, Agent Foster said, appear to be sophisticated forgeries. They include driver's licenses, social security cards, and what appear to be employee ID badges for various airlines. This suggests an organized operation designed to circumvent aviation security. David felt a mixture of relief and concern. Relief that the investigators were beginning to understand the significance of his discovery, but concern about the implications of what he had found. Agent Foster, how long might these documents have been hidden there? And are there other packages hidden in other aircraft? The questions David asked demonstrated his genuine concern for security rather than an attempt to cover up criminal activity. Agent Foster noted his proactive thinking and began to view him less as a suspect and more as a valuable witness who had uncovered evidence of a serious security breach. Mr. Martinez, your discovery has potentially prevented a significant security incident. We're going to need your continued cooperation as we investigate the full scope of this operation.
Over the next several hours, David provided detailed information about his cleaning procedures, his observations of unusual passenger behavior, and his knowledge of how items might be concealed in aircraft. His expertise as someone who knew aircraft interiors intimately proved invaluable to the investigation. As the interrogation continued, it became clear that David's discovery was part of a much larger security failure. The hidden documents suggested that unauthorized individuals had been using fraudulent identification to access aircraft, possibly for months. The implications were staggering. If criminals could bypass security screening, they could potentially bring weapons, explosives, or other dangerous materials onto flights. Detective Chen revealed that similar document caches had been discovered in other airports following David's report. His discovery had triggered a nationwide investigation into security vulnerabilities that could have led to catastrophic incidents. Law enforcement agencies across the country were now searching for additional evidence of the document fraud operation. "Mr. Martinez," Detective Chen said, "your diligence and quick reporting may have saved hundreds of lives. We're going to recommend you for commendation, but we also need to discuss your safety. The people involved in this operation may view you as a threat to their activities." The reality of potential retaliation hadn't occurred to David until that moment. He had simply been doing his job and following proper procedures. But now he found himself at the center of a major criminal investigation. The thought that he might be in danger because of his discovery was both frightening and surreal. Agent Foster explained that the investigation would likely take months to complete, and that David's testimony would be crucial in prosecuting those responsible for the security breach. He would need to work with federal investigators, provide detailed statements, and possibly testify in court proceedings. As dawn broke over Phoenix Sky Harbor International Airport, David finally understood the full significance of what he had discovered. His routine cleaning work had uncovered evidence of a sophisticated criminal operation that threatened aviation security nationwide. The package hidden in seat 23F was just one piece of a larger conspiracy that could have had devastating consequences. The investigation that followed would reveal how organized crime groups had been exploiting weaknesses in airport security for months, using fraudulent documents to place unauthorized individuals on flights and potentially smuggle dangerous materials past screening systems. David's discovery had exposed vulnerabilities that could have been exploited to carry out attacks on commercial aviation. But perhaps most importantly, David's story demonstrated the critical role that dedicated frontline workers play in maintaining security. His attention to detail, his knowledge of normal versus abnormal conditions, and his commitment to following proper procedures had prevented what could have been a catastrophic security failure. As he finally left the airport that morning, David reflected on how a routine night shift had transformed into something far more significant. He had started the evening as an aircraft cleaner and ended it as a key witness in a federal investigation. His dedication to his work and his commitment to passenger safety had potentially saved countless lives and exposed serious flaws in aviation security systems. The media attention that followed would bring David both recognition and unwanted scrutiny. News outlets across the country reported on the airport cleaner who had discovered evidence of a major security breach. Some praised his vigilance and professionalism, while others questioned how such a vulnerability could have existed in the first place. David found himself thrust into the spotlight as a symbol of the important role that all airport workers play in maintaining security. His story became a case study in security training programs, demonstrating how frontline employees with proper training and commitment could identify threats that might be missed by more sophisticated detection systems. The organized crime group responsible for the document fraud operation had been operating for over 2 years, according to federal investigators. They had successfully placed unauthorized individuals on hundreds of flights, potentially compromising security on a massive scale. The discovery of their operation led to dozens of arrests and the implementation of enhanced security procedures across the aviation industry. David's supervisor, Carol Williams, was interviewed extensively about his work performance and character. She described him as one of the most dedicated and thorough employees she had ever supervised, someone who took pride in his work and understood its importance to passenger safety.
David has always been meticulous in his cleaning procedures, Carol told investigators. He follows protocols exactly and has never hesitated to report anything unusual. His discovery of these documents doesn't surprise me at all. It's exactly the kind of attention to detail I would expect from him. The airline industry took notice of David's story, recognizing that security depends not just on high-tech detection systems, but also on the vigilance and professionalism of all airport workers. Training programs were developed to help cleaning crews, baggage handlers, and other support staff recognize and report potential security threats. David's 8 years of experience cleaning aircraft had given him an intimate knowledge of what belonged in passenger cabins and what didn't. This expertise, combined with his commitment to thorough work, had enabled him to identify something that could have been overlooked by less experienced or less diligent workers. The package he discovered contained not just fraudulent identification documents, but also detailed information about airport security procedures, employee work schedules, and access protocols. This intelligence could have been used to plan sophisticated attacks on aviation infrastructure or to smuggle dangerous materials onto flights. Federal investigators determined that the criminal organization had been recruiting airport employees to hide document caches throughout various airports. The employees were paid substantial amounts of money to conceal packages in locations where they would remain undiscovered during routine security sweeps, but could be retrieved by accomplices during future flights. David's discovery had disrupted this entire network, leading to the arrest of corrupt airport employees and the dismantling of a sophisticated criminal enterprise. His actions had prevented what federal investigators described as a potential catastrophe that could have resulted in hundreds of casualties and a massive disruption to commercial aviation.
The investigation revealed that David had uncovered just the tip of an iceberg. Federal agents discovered that the document fraud operation extended across 12 major airports in 8 states, representing one of the most sophisticated security breaches in aviation history. The criminal organization had been operating for over 3 years, successfully infiltrating airport security systems through a network of corrupt employees and elaborate document forgery schemes.
Agent Michael Foster from the Transportation Security Administration briefed David on the scope of what his discovery had revealed. Mr. Martinez, the package you found contained master copies of identification templates that were being used to create fraudulent documents for dozens of individuals. These weren't amateur forgeries, they were professionally produced documents that could fool most standard security checks. The briefing took place in a secure conference room at the Federal Building in downtown Phoenix. David found himself sitting across from representatives from multiple agencies: the TSA, FBI, Department of Homeland Security, and local airport police. The gravity of the situation was evident in their serious expressions and the classified nature of much of the information they shared. The documents included employee identification badges for major airlines, which would have allowed unauthorized individuals to access restricted areas of airports, Agent Foster continued. They also contained passenger boarding credentials that could be used to bypass normal ticketing and security screening procedures. Detective Sarah Chen from the airport police added crucial context about how the operation worked. The criminals were recruiting airport employees from various departments, not just cleaning crews, but also baggage handlers, food service workers, and even some security personnel. They offered substantial payments, sometimes as much as $50,000, for cooperation in hiding document caches and providing inside information about security procedures. David listened with growing amazement and horror as the investigators explained how his routine cleaning work had disrupted a criminal enterprise that posed an enormous threat to aviation security. The hidden package in Seat 23F was part of a distribution system that allowed the organization to move fraudulent documents between airports without triggering traditional security detection methods. The beauty of their system from a criminal perspective, explained FBI Special Agent Lisa Park, was that they used the aircraft themselves as courier vehicles. Documents hidden in one city could be retrieved in another, making it extremely difficult to track the movement of materials or identify the people involved in the operation. Agent Park showed David photographs of similar document caches that had been discovered in aircraft at other airports following his initial discovery. The packages were consistently hidden in locations that would be difficult to find during routine cleaning or security inspections, underneath seat cushions, inside overhead bin mechanisms, and even within the aircraft's interior wall panels. Your thorough cleaning procedures and attention to detail are what made the difference, Agent Park told David. Most cleaning crews follow standard protocols that focus on visible areas and common passenger spaces. Your practice of checking underneath seat cushions and in concealed areas is what led to this discovery.
David listened with growing amazement and horror as the investigators explained how his routine cleaning work had disrupted a criminal enterprise that posed an enormous threat to aviation security. The hidden package in Seat 23F was part of a distribution system that allowed the organization to move fraudulent documents between airports without triggering traditional security detection methods. The beauty of their system, from a criminal perspective, explained FBI Special Agent Lisa Park, was that they used the aircraft themselves as courier vehicles. Documents hidden in one city could be retrieved in another, making it extremely difficult to track the movement of materials or identify the people involved in the operation. Agent Park showed David photographs of similar document caches that had been discovered in aircraft at other airports following his initial discovery. The packages were consistently hidden in locations that would be difficult to find during routine cleaning or security inspections. Underneath seat cushions, inside overhead bin mechanisms, and even within the aircraft's interior wall panels. Your thorough cleaning procedures and attention to detail are what made the difference, Agent Park told David. Most cleaning crews follow standard protocols that focus on visible areas and common passenger spaces. Your practice of checking underneath seat cushions and in concealed areas is what led to this discovery. The criminal organization had been careful to study airport cleaning procedures and security protocols, deliberately choosing hiding places that would avoid detection during normal operations. They had counted on the routine nature of most cleaning work to keep their document caches safe from discovery. David learned that the investigation had already led to arrests in multiple cities. Federal agents had been conducting coordinated raids on the homes and workplaces of suspected conspirators, seizing computers, financial records, and additional fraudulent documents. The scope of the operation was staggering, involving hundreds of fake identities and potentially thousands of security violations. The financial component of this operation was enormous, Detective Chen explained. Our preliminary analysis suggests that the organization was generating millions of dollars in revenue by selling fraudulent documents to individuals who wanted to bypass security screening or gain unauthorized access to restricted areas. The customers for these fraudulent documents ranged from people trying to evade law enforcement to individuals with more sinister intentions. Federal investigators were particularly concerned about the possibility that the documents could have been used by people planning attacks on aviation infrastructure or attempting to smuggle dangerous materials onto aircraft. Mr. Martinez, we need you to understand something important, Agent Foster said. The people you've helped us identify are not just document forgers. Some of them have connections to organized crime groups and potentially to international terrorist organizations. Your discovery has disrupted what could have been catastrophic attacks on commercial aviation. The security implications extended far beyond just fraudulent documents. The investigation revealed that the criminal organization had also been gathering intelligence about airport security procedures, employee work schedules, and the locations of security cameras and detection equipment. This information could have been used to plan sophisticated attacks or to identify additional vulnerabilities in aviation security systems. David's role as a key witness meant that he would need to testify in multiple court proceedings as federal prosecutors built cases against the individuals involved in the operation. The legal process would likely take years to complete, and David would need to maintain his availability for depositions, grand jury testimony, and eventual trials. We're going to provide you with security protection, Agent Park informed David. The people involved in this operation have significant financial resources and connections to dangerous criminal organizations. We can't take any chances with your safety or that of your family. The offer of federal protection was both reassuring and frightening for David. He had never imagined that his job as an aircraft cleaner would put him in a position where he might need protection from criminal retaliation. The reality of the situation was beginning to sink in as he realized how significantly his life had changed in just a few hours.
David's employer, the airport cleaning contractor, was also facing scrutiny as investigators examined how the criminal organization had been able to recruit airport employees for their scheme. The company was cooperating fully with the investigation and implementing new security awareness training for all employees. "Your company has actually been very helpful," Detective Chen told David. "Your supervisor, Carol Williams, provided detailed information about your work history and performance that helped establish your credibility as a witness. She spoke very highly of your professionalism and attention to detail." The media attention surrounding David's discovery was intense, but carefully managed by federal investigators who needed to protect the ongoing investigation while also acknowledging his heroic actions. News outlets across the country were reporting on the airport cleaner who had uncovered a major security breach, but many details were being withheld to avoid compromising the broader investigation. David found himself uncomfortable with the media attention, preferring to focus on his work and his cooperation with federal investigators. He had never sought recognition for his actions and was more concerned about the safety implications of what he had discovered than about any personal fame or recognition. "Mr. Martinez, you need to understand that your story is important not just because of what you discovered, but because of what it demonstrates about the role of frontline workers in maintaining security," Agent Park explained. "Your actions prove that effective security depends on the vigilance and professionalism of everyone who works in airport environments." The airline industry was taking notice of David's story and the broader implications of the security breach he had uncovered.
Major airlines were reviewing their own security procedures and working with federal agencies to implement enhanced detection and reporting systems. David's 8 years of experience cleaning aircraft had given him insights that proved invaluable to investigators trying to understand how the document fraud operation worked. His knowledge of aircraft interiors, passenger behavior, and cleaning procedures helped federal agents develop new security protocols and training programs. "You've essentially become a consultant to our security enhancement efforts," Agent Foster told David. "Your practical knowledge of how airports and aircraft actually operate is helping us identify vulnerabilities that might not be obvious to people who only understand security from a theoretical perspective." The criminal organization's recruitment methods were particularly sophisticated, targeting airport employees who had financial difficulties or other personal problems that made them vulnerable to corruption. The large sums of money offered for cooperation were often too tempting for workers facing economic hardship to refuse. David's own financial situation had been stable, and his strong work ethic and commitment to his job had made him an unlikely target for recruitment by the criminal organization. His decision to report the hidden documents rather than ignore them or attempt to profit from them demonstrated the integrity that had made him a trusted employee for 8 years. "Your actions contrast sharply with those of the employees who were recruited by this organization," Detective Chen observed. "You had the same opportunity to ignore what you found or even to profit from it, but your commitment to doing the right thing led you to report it immediately." The investigation was also revealing how the criminal organization had used social media and other online platforms to identify and recruit potential accomplices among airport workers. They had developed sophisticated profiles of employees who might be willing to participate in illegal activities in exchange for financial compensation. The federal investigators were working with social media companies to identify and shut down accounts that had been used to recruit airport workers for criminal activities. The investigation was uncovering a complex network of online communications that had been used to coordinate the document fraud operation across multiple airports. David's discovery had also prompted a comprehensive review of security clearance procedures for airport employees. Federal agencies were implementing new background check requirements and more frequent security reviews for workers with access to aircraft and restricted airport areas. "The security implications of what you uncovered extend far beyond just this one criminal organization," Agent Park explained. "Your discovery has revealed systemic vulnerabilities in aviation security that we're now working to address through comprehensive policy and procedural changes." The enhanced security measures being implemented as a result of David's discovery would affect thousands of airport workers across the country. New training programs were being developed to help employees recognize and report potential security threats, and new reporting systems were being established to ensure that suspicious activities were investigated promptly.
David's story was becoming a case study in security training programs for airport workers nationwide. His example demonstrated the importance of thorough work procedures, attention to detail, and immediate reporting of suspicious activities. Training instructors were using his experience to illustrate how individual workers could make a critical difference in maintaining aviation security. The federal investigation was also examining how the document fraud operation had been financed and who the ultimate beneficiaries of the illegal activities were. Financial analysts were tracing money flows and identifying bank accounts and other assets that could be seized as part of the prosecution efforts. This wasn't just a document fraud scheme, Agent Foster explained to David. The people behind this operation were running a sophisticated criminal enterprise that was generating enormous profits while putting thousands of innocent travelers at risk. Your discovery has given us the evidence we need to dismantle the entire organization. The court proceedings that would follow David's discovery were expected to result in significant prison sentences for the individuals involved in the document fraud operation. Federal prosecutors were preparing cases that could result in decades of imprisonment for the ringleaders and substantial sentences for the airport employees who had participated in the scheme.
David's testimony would be crucial in these prosecutions, as he was the person who had actually discovered the evidence that exposed the entire operation. His credibility as a witness was enhanced by his clean employment record, his consistent work performance, and his immediate reporting of the suspicious documents. Your role as a witness is critical to our ability to prosecute these cases successfully, Detective Chen told David. Without your discovery and your professional handling of the situation, we might never have learned about this security breach. The long-term impact of David's discovery would extend far beyond the immediate criminal prosecutions. The security enhancements being implemented as a result of his actions would improve aviation safety for millions of passengers and would serve as a model for security improvements in other industries as well. As the initial phase of the investigation concluded, David began to understand the full significance of what his routine cleaning work had accomplished. His attention to detail and commitment to proper procedures had uncovered one of the most serious aviation security breaches in recent history, and had prevented what could have been catastrophic attacks on commercial aviation. The recognition David received from federal law enforcement agencies, his employer, and the aviation industry was unprecedented for someone in his position. He had demonstrated that effective security depends not just on sophisticated technology and highly trained specialists, but also on the vigilance and professionalism of frontline workers who take pride in their work and understand its importance to public safety.
The transformation that followed David's discovery extended far beyond the immediate criminal investigation. Within 6 months, his actions had catalyzed the most comprehensive overhaul of aviation security protocols since the establishment of the Transportation Security Administration. Federal agencies, working in unprecedented coordination, developed new standards that would fundamentally change how airports approached security screening, employee vetting, and threat detection. The Department of Homeland Security established the Martinez Protocol, named in honor of David's discovery, which required enhanced inspection procedures for all commercial aircraft. This protocol mandated that cleaning crews received specialized training in threat recognition, and that all aircraft undergo detailed security sweeps using techniques developed from lessons learned during the investigation of the document fraud operation. Agent Michael Foster from the Transportation Security Administration had become the lead coordinator for implementing these new security measures nationwide. He worked directly with David to develop training materials that incorporated real-world insights from someone who understood the practical aspects of aircraft cleaning and maintenance operations. Mr. Martinez, your perspective has been invaluable in designing these new protocols, Agent Foster explained during one of their regular meetings at the federal building in Phoenix. You understand the operational realities that security experts often overlook when they design procedures in conference rooms without considering how they'll actually be implemented by frontline workers. The training program that emerged from this collaboration was revolutionary in its approach to aviation security. Rather than treating frontline workers as potential security risks to be monitored and controlled, the new protocols recognize them as essential partners in maintaining safety. The program emphasized the expertise that experienced workers like David possessed and provided them with tools and authority to act on their observations. David found himself traveling to airports across the country to conduct training sessions for cleaning crews, baggage handlers, and other support staff. His presentations focused on practical techniques for recognizing suspicious items or activities and emphasized the importance of immediate reporting when something seemed unusual or out of place. The key insight that Mr. Martinez brings to these training sessions, explained Carol Williams, David's former supervisor who had been promoted to regional security coordinator, is that effective security depends on understanding normal operations so thoroughly that abnormal conditions immediately stand out. At the training session at Los Angeles International Airport, David addressed an audience of over 300 airport workers representing dozens of different job categories. His presentation included detailed photographs of the hidden document cache he had discovered and explanations of why its placement and concealment methods had made it so difficult to detect using traditional security procedures. "When I found that package under seat 23F," David told the audience, "what struck me immediately was that it had been deliberately hidden by someone who understood aircraft interiors and cleaning procedures. This wasn't something that had been accidentally dropped or forgotten. Someone had studied our work patterns and chosen a location where they thought the package would remain undiscovered."
The audience listened intently as David explained his systematic approach to aircraft cleaning and how his attention to areas that other cleaners might overlook had led to his discovery. He emphasized that effective security required not just following procedures, but understanding why those procedures existed and what they were designed to detect or prevent. During the question and answer period following his presentation, numerous workers shared their own experiences of discovering suspicious items or observing unusual passenger behavior. Many of them had previously hesitated to report their observations because they weren't sure whether their concerns were legitimate or because they feared being criticized for causing delays or false alarms. "Mr. Martinez's story gives us confidence that our observations matter," said Maria Santos, a baggage handler who had noticed patterns of suspicious behavior but had never reported them. "If a cleaning worker can uncover a major security breach, then all of us have a role to play in keeping passengers safe." The cultural change that David's story inspired extended throughout the aviation industry. Airlines began recognizing that their frontline employees possessed valuable knowledge about normal versus abnormal conditions, and started implementing systems that encouraged and rewarded security reporting. Employee recognition programs specifically acknowledged workers who identified potential threats or security vulnerabilities. The financial impact of the document fraud operation that David had uncovered was staggering. Federal investigators determined that the criminal organization had generated over $40 million in revenue over 3 years by selling fraudulent documents and insider information to individuals seeking to bypass security procedures. The money had been used to corrupt airport employees, purchase sophisticated document production equipment, and finance additional criminal activities. The investigation also revealed that some of the fraudulent documents had been sold to individuals with connections to international terrorist organizations. While no actual attacks had been carried out using the fake credentials, federal authorities concluded that the potential for catastrophic incidents had been enormous. David's discovery had quite literally prevented what could have been multiple terrorist attacks on commercial aviation. "The scope of what we prevented is almost impossible to calculate," explained FBI Special Agent Lisa Park during a congressional hearing on aviation security. "The criminal organization was providing the tools that could have enabled devastating attacks on our transportation infrastructure. Mr. Martinez's vigilance and professionalism saved countless lives." The congressional hearings that followed David's discovery resulted in significant new funding for aviation security programs and new legislation requiring enhanced background checks for all airport employees. The Martinez Aviation Security Enhancement Act, passed unanimously by both houses of Congress, allocated over $2 billion for security improvements and established new standards for employee training and threat reporting. David was invited to testify before the House Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure, where he provided lawmakers with detailed insights into how security vulnerabilities could be identified and addressed through better training and support for frontline workers. His testimony was compelling, not just because of his heroic discovery, but because of his practical understanding of how security procedures actually worked in real-world operational environments.
"Congressman Williams," David said in response to a question about funding priorities, The most sophisticated detection equipment in the world is useless if the people operating it don't understand what they're looking for or don't feel empowered to act on their observations. Effective security requires investing in people, not just technology.
The committee members were impressed by David's practical wisdom and his ability to articulate complex security concepts in terms that non-experts could understand. His testimony helped shape legislation that prioritized human factors in security systems and emphasized the importance of treating all airport workers as valuable partners in maintaining safety. The criminal trials that resulted from David's discovery attracted international attention as prosecutors presented evidence of the sophisticated document fraud operation and its potential connections to terrorist organizations. David's testimony was crucial in these proceedings, as he was the person who had actually discovered the evidence that exposed the entire conspiracy. The lead defendant, Marcus Kellerman, was revealed to be a former airline employee who had used his insider knowledge of airport operations to recruit accomplices and develop the document concealment system. Kellerman had been terminated from his job for performance issues 3 years earlier, and had apparently been motivated by both financial gain and resentment against the aviation industry. During the trial, prosecutors presented evidence that Kellerman's organization had recruited over 60 airport employees across 12 airports to participate in the document fraud scheme. The employees had been paid substantial sums to hide document caches, provide inside information about security procedures, and identify additional recruitment targets among their colleagues. David's testimony about finding the hidden package was the cornerstone of the prosecution's case against Kellerman and his associates. His credibility as a witness was enhanced by his consistent work record, his immediate reporting of the discovery, and his cooperation with federal investigators throughout the lengthy investigation process. Mr. Martinez represents everything that's right about the people who work in our aviation system, said Assistant U.S. Attorney Jennifer Walsh during her closing arguments. His dedication to his job, his attention to detail, and his commitment to passenger safety prevented what could have been catastrophic attacks on innocent travelers. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours before returning guilty verdicts on all counts against Kellerman and his primary associates. The sentences that followed were severe. Kellerman received 45 years in federal prison, while other key participants received sentences ranging from 15 to 30 years. The corrupt airport employees who had participated in the scheme received shorter sentences, but faced permanent bans from working in aviation or other transportation security-sensitive positions. The international implications of David's discovery extended far beyond U.S. borders. Aviation security agencies in Europe, Asia, and other regions implemented similar enhanced inspection procedures and employee training programs based on the lessons learned from the investigation. The International Civil Aviation Organization adopted new recommended practices that incorporated elements of the Martinez Protocol for use by member countries worldwide. David's story became a case study taught in security training programs globally. Aviation security professionals from dozens of countries visited Phoenix Sky Harbor International Airport to observe the enhanced procedures that had been implemented following his discovery, and to meet with David to learn from his experience. Mr. Martinez has become an ambassador for aviation security excellence, explained Dr. Robert Chen, director of the International Aviation Security Institute. His story demonstrates that effective security depends on the dedication and professionalism of workers at every level, not just the people in leadership positions or those with advanced technical training. The recognition David received for his actions was unprecedented for someone in his position. He was awarded the Transportation Security Administration's highest civilian honor, the Director's Award for Exceptional Service.
The Federal Bureau of Investigation presented him with their Public Service Award, recognizing his contribution to preventing terrorist attacks. The International Association of Chiefs of Police honored him with their Civilian Hero Award for his role in exposing the criminal conspiracy.
But perhaps the recognition that meant the most to David came from his fellow airport workers. At the annual Airport Employees Recognition Ceremony, over 1,000 workers from Phoenix Sky Harbor International Airport gave him a standing ovation that lasted for several minutes. Their applause was not just for his individual heroism, but for the way his actions had elevated the status and importance of all frontline airport workers. David Martinez has shown the world that every job in aviation security matters, said James Rodriguez, president of the Airport Workers Union, during the ceremony. His story proves that the person cleaning the aircraft is just as important to passenger safety as the person flying it or the person screening passengers at security checkpoints. The airline industry's response to David's discovery included significant changes in how cleaning contracts were awarded and managed. Airlines began requiring enhanced security training for all cleaning personnel and implemented new oversight procedures to ensure that security protocols were being followed consistently. The industry also established new recognition programs to acknowledge cleaning crews and other support staff who demonstrated exceptional attention to security concerns. David's employer, the cleaning contractor that had hired him 8 years earlier, became a model for how companies could support their employees in maintaining high security standards. The company implemented new training programs, improved compensation packages, and established career advancement opportunities for workers who demonstrated exceptional performance and commitment to security. David's discovery has transformed our entire approach to employee development and recognition, explained Thomas Anderson, regional manager for the cleaning contractor. We now understand that our workers are security professionals who deserve the training, support, and compensation that reflects the critical importance of their work. The technological innovations that emerged from the investigation of David's discovery included new detection systems specifically designed to identify hidden materials in aircraft interiors. These systems used advanced imaging technology and artificial intelligence to scan passenger areas for items that shouldn't be there, complementing the human observation skills that David had demonstrated. However, the implementation of these new technologies was always coupled with enhanced training for human operators, who needed to understand how to use the equipment effectively and how to interpret its results. The lesson from David's experience was that technology and human expertise needed to work together to achieve optimal security outcomes. The research and development programs funded by the Martinez Aviation Security Enhancement Act led to breakthrough innovations in document authentication, employee background screening, and threat detection. But all of these technological advances were designed to support and enhance human decision-making, rather than replace the kind of vigilance and expertise that David had demonstrated. 5 years after his discovery, David had been promoted to Senior Security Coordinator for the cleaning contractor, a position that gave him oversight responsibility for security procedures at multiple airports. His job involved training new employees, conducting security audits, and working with federal agencies to continuously improve threat detection capabilities. The most satisfying aspect of my new role, David explained during an interview for Aviation Security magazine, is knowing that the procedures we've developed will help other workers identify and report security threats before they can cause harm to innocent people. The impact of David's discovery on his personal life had been profound, but largely positive. The financial recognition he received, including awards from various organizations and speaking fees for his presentations, had allowed him to purchase a home and provide better educational opportunities for his children. More importantly, his work had given him a sense of purpose and accomplishment that extended far beyond his original job responsibilities.
David's wife, Maria, had initially been concerned about the potential dangers associated with his role as a key witness in federal prosecutions. However, the security measures implemented to protect David and his family had been effective, and no retaliation attempts had occurred. The successful prosecution of the criminal organization had eliminated most of the potential threats to David's safety. "I'm proud of what David accomplished," Maria said during a television interview marking the 5th anniversary of his discovery. "But I'm even more proud of how he's used his experience to help other people and improve security for everyone who travels by air." The educational initiatives that grew out of David's story included scholarship programs for students interested in aviation security careers and partnerships between airports and local schools to teach young people about the importance of transportation security. David frequently spoke at these educational events, encouraging students to consider careers in aviation security and emphasizing that every job in the industry contributed to passenger safety. At Phoenix Community College, David helped develop a new certificate program in aviation security that provided specialized training for people seeking careers in airport operations. The program combined technical instruction in security procedures with practical training in threat recognition and reporting. Graduates of the program were highly sought after by employers throughout the aviation industry. Mr. Martinez brings a unique perspective to our educational programs, explained Dr. Susan Williams, Dean of the Transportation Technology Department at Phoenix Community College. He understands both the theoretical aspects of security and the practical challenges of implementing security procedures in real-world operational environments. The research studies conducted by academic institutions to analyze the effectiveness of the security improvements implemented following David's discovery consistently showed positive results. Threat detection rates had improved significantly, employee reporting of suspicious activities had increased dramatically, and overall confidence in aviation security had been restored among both workers and passengers. The University of Arizona's Transportation Security Research Center published a comprehensive analysis of the document fraud case and its aftermath, concluding that David's discovery had prevented what could have been the most devastating attack on commercial aviation in modern history. The study became required reading in security studies programs at universities worldwide. Dr. Michael Foster, who had left the Transportation Security Administration to become a professor at the University of Arizona, continued to work with David on research projects aimed at improving security procedures and training programs. Their collaboration had produced several influential academic papers and had contributed to policy changes at both national and international levels. David Martinez represents the best of what's possible when we properly train, support, and empower frontline security workers, Dr. Foster wrote in the conclusion of their most recent research paper. His story demonstrates that effective security is not just about having the right technology or the right policies, but about having the right people with the right training and the right motivation to protect public safety.
The international recognition of David's contributions to aviation security included invitations to speak at conferences in Europe, Asia, and Latin America. His presentations focused on practical techniques for improving security culture in aviation organizations and emphasized the importance of treating all employees as valuable partners in maintaining safety. At the International Aviation Security Conference in London, David's presentation drew one of the largest audiences in the conference's history. Security professionals from over 50 countries attended his session on frontline workers as security assets, and many implemented similar training programs in their own organizations based on his recommendations. The global aviation community has embraced the lessons learned from Mr. Martinez's experience, observed Dr. Catherine Mills, director of the European Aviation Security Agency.
His influence on international security standards has been remarkable and has contributed to making air travel safer for millions of passengers worldwide. The mentorship programs that David established for new airport workers had become models for employee development throughout the transportation industry. These programs paired experienced workers with newcomers to provide both technical training and guidance on security awareness and reporting procedures. David's mentorship program has transformed our approach to employee onboarding, explained Carol Williams, who had continued working with David in her role as Regional Security Coordinator. New employees learn not just how to do their jobs, but how to think about security and how their work contributes to the overall safety of the aviation system. The long-term impact of David's discovery continued to evolve as new threats emerged and security procedures adapted to address them. The principles he had demonstrated, attention to detail, immediate reporting of suspicious activities, and commitment to continuous improvement, remained central to aviation security training programs worldwide. As David reflected on the 10 years that had passed since his discovery of the hidden document cache, he was struck by how profoundly his life and career had changed. What had started as a routine night shift cleaning aircraft had evolved into a career dedicated to improving security for millions of travelers worldwide. "I never imagined that doing my job conscientiously would lead to all of this," David said during a recent interview. "But I've learned that every person working in aviation has the potential to make a difference in passenger safety. The key is understanding that your work matters and being prepared to act when you encounter something that doesn't seem right." The legacy of David Martinez's discovery would continue to influence aviation security for generations to come. His story had proven that effective security depended not just on sophisticated technology or comprehensive policies, but on the dedication and vigilance of individual workers who took pride in their work and understood its importance to public safety. The Martinez Protocol, the training programs he had helped develop, and the cultural changes his actions had inspired would ensure that his contribution to aviation security would endure long into the future. The international recognition of David's contributions to aviation security included invitations to speak at conferences in Europe, Asia, and Latin America. His presentations focused on practical techniques for improving security culture in aviation organizations and emphasized the importance of treating all employees as valuable partners in maintaining safety. At the International Aviation Security Conference in London, David's presentation drew one of the largest audiences in the conference's history. Security professionals from over 50 countries attended his session on frontline workers as security assets, and many implemented similar training programs in their own organizations based on his recommendations. The global aviation community has embraced the lessons learned from Mr. Martinez's experience, observed Dr. Catherine Mills, director of the European Aviation Security Agency. His influence on international security standards has been remarkable and has contributed to making air travel safer for millions of passengers worldwide. The mentorship programs that David established for new airport workers had become models for employee development throughout the transportation industry. These programs paired experienced workers with newcomers to provide both technical training and guidance on security awareness and reporting procedures. David's mentorship program has transformed our approach to employee onboarding, explained Carol Williams, who had continued working with David in her role as Regional Security Coordinator. New employees learn not just how to do their jobs, but how to think about security and how their work contributes to the overall safety of the aviation system. The long-term impact of David's discovery continued to evolve as new threats emerged and security procedures adapted to address them. The principles he had demonstrated, attention to detail, immediate reporting of suspicious activities, and commitment to continuous improvement, remained central to aviation security training programs worldwide. As David reflected on the 10 years that had passed since his discovery of the hidden document cache, he was struck by how profoundly his life and career had changed. What had started as a routine night shift cleaning aircraft had evolved into a career dedicated to improving security for millions of travelers worldwide. "I never imagined that doing my job conscientiously would lead to all of this," David said during a recent interview. "But I've learned that every person working in aviation has the potential to make a difference in passenger safety. The key is understanding that your work matters and being prepared to act when you encounter something that doesn't seem right." The legacy of David Martinez's discovery would continue to influence aviation security for generations to come. His story had proven that effective security depended not just on sophisticated technology or comprehensive policies, but on the dedication and vigilance of individual workers who took pride in their work and understood its importance to public safety. The Martinez Protocol, the training programs he had helped develop, and the cultural changes his actions had inspired would ensure that his contribution to aviation security would endure long into the future.